We'd like to thank Wayfinders Testicular Health Fund for sponsoring this episode of The Shift with Mike and Joe.
You can join the conversation today at wayfindersthf.org and follow them on social media at wayfindersthf. There we go. I kind of like this. I like the slow nod sometimes. You know?
Really slow. How slow?
With Mike and Joe.
All right, welcome to The Shift with Mike and Joe, and this is episode number 41.
41.
41.
It's a Dave Matthews Band song.
Oh, yeah, it is. That was a pretty good tune.
Yeah, I don't remember how it goes, but I remember liking it.
I was really into Dave Matthews there a long time ago.
Slow down.
And then I kind of got...
Yeah, me too, actually.
Was that one of the questions you were going to ask me?
When was your Dave Matthews phase?
Right, yeah. Well, we can get into that later.
Okay.
So this is a second installment of a two-part series that we're doing. Last episode, I interviewed
sort of
Michael, and today he's going to interview me. And we're just going to see how that goes. So.
It's going to be special. Oh, spam risk.
Spam risk.
I got to take this. Okay. So, I guess I'll ask you some questions now.
Okay. All right.
Okay. First
Fire
question.
away, buddy.
It's kind of a tough one to answer, but what's your favorite thing about me?
My favorite thing about you?
Yes.
Can't
say hair. I'm talking about like...
Could you tell that I was just looking at your hair?
Yes.
It's got an interesting thing going on today. It's cool. It's got the point, but it's got this little teeny curl.
Okay, so...
Also, real quick, I have to apologize to our very few listeners because I don't have... I've kind of lost my voice a little
bit.
Yeah, I know.
Poor Joe.
I had a lot of gigs this weekend.
Yeah.
I made a lot more tips than Mike.
You did. You had better gigs than I did.
But one of my... non-fans migrated from my show over to your show. I'll answer your question, but I am curious. What song did you play for her when she came over there, when she wanted to dance?
Oh, well, first I played. Did
you play Let's Dance?
No, I was getting ready to end my show, and this guy was like, "Can I sing a song?" Like right when she was talking to me, and I was like, "Sure, why not?" And he was like, play these 3 chords over and over again and play it like a reggae thing.
So you let somebody come up there and play a song?
Well,
sing a song?
Yeah. Dude,
it's
Betty's.
Yeah, it's Betty's, yeah.
You know, and it was like, there was not a lot of people there and they were kind of all there together and it was a good move. It was
right,
good.
Okay.
And actually the dude had a really good voice. Like, it's like way better voice than
Well, that's, I mean... I wouldn't have been surprised if he was terrible, but I guess it's not surprising if he's going to ask you to sing a song.
Yeah, he was good. So we played like a reggae version of, I don't know, it was like a mashup of like 40 Ounces of Freedom and Steer It Up or Stir It Up.
Okay.
Steer It Up. What is it?
He says steer it up.
Steer it up.
But I think that's just like the Jamaican accent.
Yeah, Stir It Up.
All right.
So,
all right.
But then... she wanted to play a Rolling Stones song. And the only Rolling Stones song I know is Wild Horses, which is like
not a dance song.
Mm-hmm. So I was like, how about some Johnny Cash? And she was like, yeah, that'll work. So I played Doom 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 Folsom Prison.
Mm-hmm.
And then they were like, one more song. And I was like, sorry guys, no.
Nope. Did you really?
No. I played Bad Moon Rising.
Okay.
That's a dancer.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know? So
you gave them what they were looking for.
Yeah, but this lady she wasn't a happy camper in general.
Oh, yeah, I know.
Yeah. And she was like, I don't really like CCR, but that was okay, I guess. I never really got into them.
Sorry, I'm not your personal
even though she danced the whole time, yeah.
Right, yeah.
So whatever, lady.
Those people make me angry.
She did give me some money though, so
yeah,
I'll take that.
That's good. I don't think she gave me any money, but the people that she was with did.
Yeah.
All right, cool. So thanks for finishing that story that we started before the show started.
Is this okay to do on camera like that?
I don't know. Yeah. All right. So what do I like the most about you? I mean, I admire your hair. You got great hair, Mike. I mean, you know, I think that you are I think you're a pretty responsible, self-aware person.
Thank you, Joe.
In a similar way to me.
Yes, well.
So yeah, I like that about you. I think that we have. There's definitely areas of our lives where we're like way far apart.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, I think that parts of our personality are similar. So I like that about you because I see, like, I feel like we can relate on that level.
Okay. Next question about you.
Okay.
What's your least favorite thing about me?
My least favorite thing about you? That you don't cuss anymore.
Oh, you don't like that?
I mean, it's not really my least favorite thing about you, but I sometimes I wish you would cuss with me.
Just throw out a couple.
Yeah.
I gotcha.
Yeah, it's almost like when I hear you earlier, you were telling me to suck balls or something like that, and I was like, whoa, Mike's feeling frisky today.
Yeah.
Not in that way, but
so like yeah, I could understand that.
All right, but what's seriously I don't know, man. I mean, it's not like I dislike it, but like I wish you would just buy a new car.
Yeah,
you know?
no, I get like I'm kind of cheap. Yeah,
but I mean, it doesn't really affect me in any way. But it's like, you know, when I hear you talking about the car problems you have.
Yeah.
But I mean, hey, you know, I also admire that about you because, you know, I would just be like, well, let's get rid of this car and get a new one, and I'd probably get something that is more than what I need.
Yeah.
But you're really good at not doing that.
Yeah.
You know, you're really good at like
duct taping things together.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if you're good at duct tape. You're good at like not replacing things immediately with brand new stuff and spending money that you don't necessarily need to spend.
This is a great interview so far.
Yeah. All right.
Okay. All right, but for real, let's talk about you for real.
Okay.
So, Joe, tell me about your early childhood, like things like, I mean, anything you want to tell me, but like, you know, what was your home life like? Do you have brothers and sisters? Are you the oldest? Are you the youngest? Are you an only child? Did your parents get divorced? That kind of stuff.
Yeah. I grew up in Costa Rica. We were.
For real?
No.
Oh, I was like, gosh, I didn't know that.
What? I got a younger brother. He's 2.5 years younger. You've met him. His name is Jake.
Yes, I have.
He's a cool dude. He's slightly fatter, slightly more bald, and slightly less good looking.
Dang.
No, I'm just kidding.
Jake.
We almost look exactly alike.
Still love you, brother.
Yeah, he's a good dude. He's doing well. But yeah, we actually we lived right down the road in Queen Anne Colony.
Okay.
When I was born, and
nice golf community.
Yeah. Yeah, it's got a golf course. Yeah, it's like, you know, it's not like what you would think of as like a golf course community because it's
public, right?
It's like a public course and it's, you know, costs a lot less. It's not a great course, but anyway, yeah, we lived there until I was like, I think 5 or something.
Okay.
And my parents actually split for a while. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, my dad, I think my parents were like 23 and 25 when I was born, which is, you know, I mean, not super young, but yeah, you know, I think
pretty young.
A little bit of a, dad was still into like hanging out with the boys and stuff like that. So my parents split for a little while. My mom and my brother and I, we moved right over across the bridge to Cape St. Clair.
Okay.
And I went to elementary school there for a few years. I think we lived over there for like 4 years about. Before we even moved back here, my parents got back together and like dad. So it was only like a year, maybe year and a half where it was just my mom and my brother and I.
Okay.
And yeah, so then we moved back over here to the Eastern Shore in Centreville where my parents live now. I was in 5th grade. So I went to like it was 4 years, first, second, third, and 4th grade over in Cape St. Clair. Am I putting you to sleep yet?
No, I'm just getting ready for the next question.
Okay.
Sorry.
I mean, the question you just asked me is fairly lengthy.
Yeah, go for
response.
it. I'm just
You're just
while
preparing.
you're talking, I'm thinking about other stuff. It's like
Exactly. Right.
conversation 101, right?
All right. Yeah. So we moved back over here when I was in 5th grade. Yeah, man. I mean, it was a pretty normal childhood. My grandparents, both sets of grandparents were around. My
That's
great grandmother was alive until I was like 23 or something like that, and saw her all the time. So yeah, it was good upbringing. Good
What was it
family
like
life.
switching schools? Was that tough?
That was a bit of a shock. Yeah.
Yeah.
Little bit of a culture. I mean, not really a culture shock, a little bit, but I mean, I was like what 12, 11, I guess, in 5th grade.
Yeah, something like that.
And the new
No,
kid.
that's not right. Yeah, that's about right.
I think it was about 11.
But yeah, being a new kid, that's
Yeah, I was the new kid, man, and so it was Centreville Middle School, which was 5th to 8th grade. So not only was I the new kid, but like the new kid in the lowest grade in the whole school. So yeah, I mean, it was a little rough for a while, but it wasn't like, it was fine after a while. Yeah, man, and lived in Centreville through high school, played sports and stuff.
was that your crowd, the sports crowd?
Yeah, probably. I'd say so. Yeah, probably mostly. I mean, Centreville is a rural area, so everybody had a little bit of redneck in them for sure. And I probably crossed over into the like redneck crowd a little bit.
Okay.
We had Redneck Row where everybody parked their trucks.
Yeah.
And although I did have a big truck with mud tires on it, I did not park in Redneck Row because
what a
that
slap in
meant
the
you were
face.
like a full on, like that's, you identified as a redneck.
Okay.
And I kind of like wanted to be in the middle there somewhere. So
You parked in, I can't think of a clever alliteration. Princess Prairie? I don't know.
yeah, right. Yeah, man. So, pretty normal kind of stuff, I guess,
Okay. Did you, were you like a hunter, fisher kind of guy? When you
Oh yeah, for sure. So my uncle is, my dad's brother. My dad they both did a whole lot of hunting growing up, which meant that I did too. So, I mean, I started going with my dad when I was, I don't know, probably 8 or 9, I guess.
Okay.
And then my uncle had a hunting business. So he was an outfitter, meaning he took like hunting parties and
Oh, okay, cool.
that kind of thing. So
Weren't you a guide at Pintail for a while?
not at Pintail,
Or
no,
somewhere?
for my uncle.
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, so I mean, I was kind of like leading up to that. So because he was an outfitter, he rented all these different farms to hunt on, which meant that, we got to go on a lot of them. So that was, pretty awesome. I got to experience like a lot of good hunting spots growing up, and then natural kind of progression as I got a little older, like my early 20s, I started guiding for him. And I did that for a while. It was cool. It was a good job.
Yeah.
I'm glad I got to experience it. I was really into that at the time, but, I mean, like 14-hour days, man, outside in the cold all day long. And
Nice.
it was a tough job for sure. So I kind of got hunted out there for a while. So I really haven't been into it for the past 8 or 9 years.
Have you ever killed a man?
A man? No,
No. Okay.
no.
It's that movie with Ice Cube or Ice-T or one of those guys where they like hunt people.
I don't think I've seen that one, but
A
I
game, maybe, I think it's called.
is that what it is?
Like that,
I haven't
yeah.
seen that.
Yeah, me neither. Okay, cool. So when did music enter? When did you start getting into music?
My senior year, I mean, I always liked music, when
Yeah.
I was younger, and I was very into like listening to music. I was like, based on where we were, I listened to country music, a lot of country music. And, back then, man, it was like the radio was like the only thing you had,
Right.
So I did listen to a lot of country radio. However, country radio in the 90s, I mean, I could be biased saying this, but I feel like it was a lot better than it is now.
I think it's a fact.
Yeah. But I, also growing up in the 90s, like I listened to Nirvana and Soundgarden and Stone Temple Pilots and Pearl Jam and Toadies and like all those kinds of bands as well.
Yeah.
So I had that mix there, and I was also like exposed to a lot of like 90s rap and R&B. And even though at the time I would not admit that I liked it, I did.
Yeah, me too.
I had friends who like only listened to rap, and like, back then I would kind of be like, I don't want to listen to this, but I secretly liked it.
Yeah.
But my senior year in high school, my dad bought me a guitar from another kid that I was in school with. And I started learning how to play it then.
Do you remember what the first song you ever learned was?
Probably like Come As You Are or something.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah. But I did like early on, man, I really did spend a lot of time. Like I would find some fairly intricate like Blackbird. I really sat down for like hours and hours and practiced and like learned, made sure I was doing it right. I don't do that anymore.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I'm glad I kind of did that early on. I did start with chords, obviously, but like I wanted to play some cool stuff. Yellow Ledbetter, I learned how to play at least the intro of it. Yeah, just by like looking at tabs, and like I spent a lot of time like not getting it right and doing it over again, and you know what I mean? So that was helpful.
Tabs were wild back then. Like I remember having a Nirvana book, and it was like instead of like telling you that the song was in drop D, it would like have you do like these crazy weird chord shapes and stuff,
Yeah.
And some of them were just, I think, just wrong, like just straight up wrong. But they got published as a book. They sell.
Yeah, that's wild that they were published in the book, because like most of them I got off of like Ultimate Guitar website, and usually that's just published by anyone.
Yeah.
So yeah, you definitely run into some wrong tabs and chords and stuff.
Yeah.
On that website. But I had a buddy in college that had a whole binder, of printed out tabs that he had like organized and filed in this binder. It was cool.
Cool.
So I learned a lot of stuff from hanging out with him and looking at his binder and stuff.
Nice.
Yeah.
What was your first boyfriend's name?
Ha ha ha. Next question. Okay.
What do you think, aside from music, what were your talents as a youngster? Like, what did you?
I was pretty athletic. We were talking about this the other day. I did karate for a long time. It's kind of funny that we never crossed paths doing that.
I think you just forgot because I concussed you.
I don't think so. No, I really was really good at it. And I did it for a long time, man. From like middle school through like 17 years old.
You asked to get into it? It wasn't like your parents put you in it?
No, I asked to get into it.
Yeah.
I did that, and I played a lot of baseball. I played soccer. I wrestled for a couple years in high school.
Nice.
I tried basketball when I was a kid, like younger, and I just wasn't very good. So I never played any more basketball. I could shoot pretty good, but it was the dribbling and stuff that I just couldn't hang with the other guys. So
yeah.
You said, what was I good at?
Yeah, it doesn't have to be like it could even be things like you were very empathetic, or you were able to, you were studious or whatever. Like,
I always did pretty decent in school. That emotional maturity stuff, no. It took me a long time I'm still learning that.
Yeah.
But I had not a whole lot of awareness of that kind of thing when I was young. I had good role models. So maybe I did like practice those things to a certain degree, but as far as like being aware of it and like, I don't think so.
Did you have any mentors growing up?
Like official mentors, not really that I can think of. you know, I had my mom's father, my grandfather. You know, I always really looked up to him. I mean, he was a well-respected man, you know, and my other grandfather too. You know, he was a different personality, but you know, had a lot of really good traits. So I learned a lot from them, and you know, my dad too, for sure. Yeah, I mean, that's how I would respond to that, I guess.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I don't think anyone really has like, or not many people have like an official mentor.
Yeah.
But like there's people in your life that outside of your parents that come alongside and kind of like, you know, teach you a lot or whatever. So.
Yeah. I mean, I had some other, my other uncle, his name is Greg. Did some work for him. I was a little bit older then, like 20s. You know, he was a good role model to look up to, has a lot of good character traits that, you know, I guess admired but you know, I don't know how aware I was of these things at the time.
Sure.
You know, it's more of a subconscious type of thing, I think.
Yeah. But looking back, you can see where.
Yeah. Yeah. I picked up a lot of little things from, you know, different people, which I'm sure lots of people do. But yeah, I had plenty of people in my life that were, you know, worth like looking up to and learning things from.
Any favorite teachers in school?
Mr. Hyde, he was pretty awesome.
What did he teach?
What did he teach? I don't even remember.
That's a good teacher if you remember. I mean, well, I guess you could.
It was either science or history. I don't recall. And I mean, I don't want to. So he passed away a few years ago. He just had like a pretty chill personality, so I liked that.
Okay.
Mr. Nicely, he was my wood carving. That was a class that really stood out. Like throughout my life, I've gotten in, you know, you're the same way. Like find like a hobby or something and you like really get into it and it's super cool and it kind of consumes you for a while and then you kind of move on to something else. I took this wood carving class in high school and I really liked it a lot. Partly because I was good at it and partly because Mr. Nicely was just cool. He was real chill. He was like a big dude and he'd just sit up front and, you know, he'd be carving stuff along with us, like showing us how to do it.
Which kind of stuff did you carve?
Like little figurines and stuff. Like we did like a little miniature loon, like it's a duck.
Yeah.
I think that was the first thing we did. And it was not just carving it was painting it too. So, you know, he would like show us how to do it and we worked on it for over the course of weeks and then we would move on to the next project. Okay. Did a canvasback duck. Then we did like this little, it was just like an old man that was like some old farmer dude with like suspenders on and a hat that you would see like standing out.
Like a model you were going off of or something?
Yeah, he had one. Like he had a model of each thing and he would just, you know, sit it in the front of the class and then he would carve a new one from scratch while we were all, and we would do it one stage at a time and he would show us like, okay, this is the first stage. This is what we're going to do. You know, you're just going to rough it out first and you got to carve this end off and you got to make sure that this part's coming up underneath because the foot's going to be there or whatever. Okay. You know, it was cool. I really,
that sounds pretty cool.
Yeah. Enjoyed that.
What's something that you've always wanted to do, like a hobby or an event, even like skydiving or something like that? What's something you've always wanted to do that you never done?
I definitely have like a very strong fear of heights. So like, I don't have any desire to jump out of a plane.
Well, that was just an example.
No, I know. But I mean, it's funny because Jen and I were talking about this the other day. Part of me wishes that I didn't have that fear because I'm sure it would be cool to jump out of a plane, but like, I just don't want to. I don't want to do anything that like where I could potentially die. Yeah. You know what I mean? I don't know, man. I wish that I was a better guitar player. I really do. I really love watching an amazing guitar player. It's something I really enjoy. You know, most of the time if I'm watching a live band, I'm like, I really enjoy vocals too, somebody who can sing really well, but like, you know, a really amazing like blues guitar player, or, you know, even like funk. I like funk guitar too.
Okay.
But I wish I was better at that.
Okay.
You know?
Spend more time on that.
I don't know if I'm going to spend more time on it, but
No,
I wish I was just naturally better at it.
Oh, okay.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah. The question was, what was something that I've always wanted to do?
Yeah.
I'd really like to do some more traveling. Like we just went to Maine for like 4 days, and I had never been to the Northeast. So that was cool. I have done a fair amount of traveling. I've been to Alaska. I've been to California and the West Coast, and Yellowstone and Yosemite and some other really cool places. I would love to go back to some of those places, but I've never been to like Europe.
Okay.
Kind of scared to fly all the way across the ocean.
Yeah.
But I really would love to visit some places in Europe at some point in my life.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously I'd love to go to like Bermuda or, you know, some really awesome tropical places like that. But, you know, I've seen like travel videos of, you know, England and Ireland and Scotland and Iceland. You know, some of those places just look amazing, and I would love to check them out in person at some point in my life.
Okay. Tell us a little bit about your work experience from, just take us through the gamut.
My work experience has been all over the place, Mike. My uncle that I mentioned before, he also had a painting business, like painting houses. Worked for him for a long time. That was kind of like one of my first, you know, jobs that I stuck with for a while. So spent a lot of time painting houses. My very first job was at Island Yacht Brokers, right down there at Kent Narrows. I was 13 or 14, and I spent a lot of time goofing off and wasting time. But like,
what were you supposed to be doing?
Like painting the bottoms of boats and, you know, waxing them, you know, redoing the teak on the deck and stuff like that, cleaning the boats out.
Redoing, like pulling it up and putting new wood down? Or
like just sanding it and refinishing it, you know, that kind of stuff. I had, you know, my father's had a boat his whole life, so I spent a lot of time when I was a kid, like hanging out with him at the boat yard and helping him do, you know, helping him paint the bottom of his boat a whole bunch of times, and do other maintenance type stuff on the boat itself. So I had like some experience, you know, even at 13 or 14. But as soon as the guy that I worked for, his name is Lamont. Super nice guy. He was a friend of my grandparents, which is how I got the job. But I will admit that a lot of times when he would leave me on my own, I used to take like, I would take like a stick or like a piece of wood and just like, there, you know, the boatyard's filled with rocks, and just like sit there and throw them up and hit them and like, all right, double, okay. And just running around in first base and he slides into second, you know, that kind of stuff.
Oh man, I wish I had a video of that.
Oh man, that was probably hilarious.
Were you by yourself?
Yes. Yeah.
That's even funnier.
Yep. Out in the middle of the boatyard, just like hitting rocks with a piece of wood.
Nice. So you painted boats, you painted houses.
Yep. I've done some. I'll try to skip to like the more interesting stuff. So
no.
I can't remember every job I've ever had. Okay. I've always stayed out of the service industry, like as far as like food service. Yeah, I knew that I would not like that, so I never did. Touching my foot, Mike. I never did work in a restaurant, even though I had a lot of friends that did that, but I never did that. Never worked like in a store. I did one time for about 30 minutes and I left and I never came back.
What store was that?
J.Crew in the outlets.
You just left?
I was like 20 something then. Yep. I told them I had to get something out of my car and I walked out and left and drove away. They called me like 20 times. They're like, "Are you going to come back? What time are you coming back?" I'm like, "I'm not coming back."
You just text you your address for the paycheck.
Yeah, right. I think I still did get paid something. It was like
they got to pay
$15 or whatever.
Yeah.
But no, so when I went to college in Salisbury, and I had a buddy named Brett who was from like Chestertown. He's actually from a small town called Fairleigh, which is north of Chestertown.
We played at his party.
Did we?
Didn't Brett, when we played at Brett's party in Chestertown a couple times? Him and his wife, I can't remember their names.
Oh, he's not married.
Oh, okay. Cool.
Oh, you're thinking of Rhett.
Brett, yeah.
Yep. Another guy. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Sorry,
We did do that. No, that's fine. So this guy named Brett, he was a year or two older than me. He up and moved to Juneau, Alaska after he graduated. And then like a year or two after that, I kept in contact with him, and he told me how awesome it was. He had a landscaping business in Salisbury, and I think even before that. So I did some landscaping work for him while we were in Salisbury. When he went to Juneau, he started a landscaping business. I don't know why he moved to Juneau. Just kind of one of those types of guys that was just like, whatever, man, that's what I'm going to do. So yeah, after a few years of him like telling me like, hey man, come up here and work for me, it's awesome, I finally had an opportunity. It was 2009. So I went up there and in the summer, and I stayed for 3 months and worked for him. Doing landscaping, cutting grass, putting in pavers. We did a lot of like hardscaping stuff, like building stone retaining walls and cinder block retaining walls and stuff.
Okay.
So that was really cool. And then I came home for the winter. I guided for my uncle, and then I went back the next year. And the second time I stayed for 6 months. Excuse me. And did the same kind of thing. That time I also worked on a fishing charter boat for salmon and halibut in Juneau.
Okay.
Yeah. So that was a really cool experience. I was doing that and the landscaping thing at the same time. And so, yeah, that was really cool. Another interesting job I had was at Tuckahoe State Park. I was a seasonal naturalist. It was actually an internship. For my degree at Salisbury. It had absolutely nothing to do with the degree, but that's a whole nother story. But that was really cool, man. I got to take I got Red Cross certified as a canoe trainer, canoe guide.
Okay. Why Red Cross? Because of CPR?
You just had to do that because we took canoe trips, like guided people on canoe trips. Okay. At Tuckahoe State Park, and you had to be Red Cross certified in order to do that. Okay. So, yeah, did that, and they had an aviary with like owls and red-tailed hawks and stuff. Put the leather thing on, my leather glove on, and like hold hawks and owls and show them to people and tell them about it.
What's an interesting bird fact?
Owls cannot spin their head all the way around. A lot of people think they can. I think it's like 270 degrees. Okay. It's like from here all the way around to there. Okay. Something like that. Don't quote me. It's been a long time.
Okay, but they can't go all the way around. Let me back you up a little bit to the landscaping thing. This is just a question I have. This is a genuine question. When cutting grass for a landscaper, what's the goal? Like, you trying to do the stripe thing, or
the goal to make the grass shorter?
But I mean, do you have to like do it a certain way, or is it just?
I mean, it depends on what they want, I guess. It depends on the house, and if it's a really nice house, yeah, you want to. So sometimes they'll go like diagonally, and then they'll go back the other way to make like a cross pattern. Sometimes they'll just go this way this time, and then the next time they cut it, they'll go this way. Okay. Try to change it up.
So when you do that cross pattern, you're literally cutting the grass twice.
Yeah.
That's cool.
You're not cutting it twice. You cut it the first time. You're just going over it a second time.
Yeah, but to make
the pattern.
But time-wise, you're covering the whole.
Yeah, I mean, speaking of cutting grass, I also worked at Queenstown Golf Course and on the grounds crew and did some that was kind of cool. Do a lot of grass cutting and maintenance of the course, and got to use. They have very specialized mowers for cutting the different parts of the grass. They let me cut the greens a little bit, but I wasn't awesome at that. So,
what is so hard about that?
Like making sure the lines are exactly straight. Because around the edge of the green, it's the green, and then the fringe is the next. You look like you're about to fall asleep. You okay?
I'm just trying to picture this.
Okay.
The green is where the hole in one happens.
Yeah, where you're putting.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then there's like a collar around the green that's called the fringe. So if the green is this short, the fringe is this short. It's just very slightly taller. Okay. And then the rough right around that is a little bit more. So it's very intricate grass cutting, and they're like very specialized mowers for each part of the course that you're cutting.
It's a different lawnmower for each one.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You can't just raise the...
No, they're specialized mowers. They have rough mowers. They have fringe mowers. Like you just literally drive all around the course and just cut the fringe. Cut the fringe on this one, go to the next one, cut the fringe on that one.
So the fringe or the rough is like the easy part.
The rough is the taller grass around the fairway and around the green.
So that's the part they let you cut.
Well, no, actually, I mean, the rough is... I mean, none of it's easy because you have to make sure that the line is straight. If your lines aren't straight, like they'll put you on something else.
You're out of there.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know, some of the other jobs are like they move the hole on the green every day. So there's like a contraption that you use to cut the hole, and it's the size of a golf hole, and you like slam it into the ground, cut a hole, and you pull that chunk out. And if I recall correctly, you take that chunk and put it in the old hole.
That makes sense.
I think that's exactly how you do it, but it's been a while.
Just move it a little bit.
No, like all over the green. Huh. They'll tell you where to put it. Yeah.
What's the purpose of that?
To change the difficulty of the hole, but also to reduce the wear in one spot on the green itself.
Oh, okay.
You know what I mean?
Sense. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So, other jobs, I mean, dude, I've only gone like halfway through. I mean, I had, we'll talk about this at some point, I suppose, but there was a period in my life when I was in active addiction. Mm-hmm. And then when I got clean, shortly after I got clean, I started working in treatment, substance abuse treatment. I started as, they call it a different thing in different treatment centers, but the one I worked at was called Serenity Acres, and they called it an RC, a residential coordinator. And you're basically like the person that you do all kinds of stuff, but you're basically like helping the clients. You help them find their room, you help them on a daily basis, you make sure they get to group, you get the food for their meals and anything like that. And that was it was a really fun job at that point in my life. I was like newly clean and like had this, new like lust for life, you know what I mean? Yeah. And trying to help everybody that was coming through treatment. And I took that job very, very seriously, probably too seriously. I was really like gung-ho about it, which was good, but I think it annoyed some people that I worked with.
Yeah,
yeah, because I was a little too like, let's go, you know what I mean? But it did serve me well because my employers noticed it and they gave me a few raises. And then they gave me a job in admissions, which was like, a step up. I got a raise there. I moved into the office,
So admissions is like when people call and say, I think my loved one needs to come here or something.
Yeah. You help
vet that or.
Yeah. You help coordinate the intake, of whatever person needs to come into treatment. But it also involved a lot of like insurance, talking to insurance and filing. Yeah. So that part I hated.
Yeah.
And I also did not, it was cool to have my own office, but at the same time, I was in there by myself and I was like, this is not
like that.
I would see the client right when they first came in. Uh-huh. And then the only other time I would see them is if like I needed to go out to one of the houses for whatever reason. And a lot of times I would just go out one of the houses for no real reason, just to get out of the office.
Yeah.
So I ended up taking a pay cut to go back to being an RC. Yeah, it was a pretty substantial pay cut, but I was just not happy doing what I was doing. So then I did that again for a while, and I think I started taking courses to be a counselor. I did graduate from Salisbury with a BA in conflict analysis and dispute resolution. It's kind of like mediation. So it kind of like fit a little bit, but long story short, I still needed other classes to be a counselor. So then that treatment center was about to close, and we all knew it. Like, it was just, they had sold it to a different company. The other company was, I don't know what they were doing, but they were not doing it right. So I started interviewing, and one of the counselors that worked at that treatment center went to a different one, and he was like, hey man, come down here. So they gave me a job. They hired me before I actually got my ADT, which is like the first level of certification that you need to be a counselor.
Okay.
Alcohol and drug trainee is what it stands for.
Okay.
So I went there, and then I got my ADT after a while, and I worked there for about a year and a half. Then they the same company opened a treatment center in Cambridge over here on the Eastern Shore. Went down there and worked for a while. I did not like it at all.
That particular location.
That it was a brand new treatment center, and it just wasn't like, I don't know. That's a whole nother side story. But yeah, I didn't love it. I worked there for like 6 months.
Okay. And
then my sponsor, his name is George. George, we still want you on the show. We think you'd be a great guest.
Great guest.
He was working at another place called
Way
Evolve.
better guest than Joe.
Way better than me, yeah. Evolve over in Glen Burnie. And, through talking with him, I got an interview and got hired over there as a counselor.
Okay. Different whole
different treatment center.
Whole different place.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I really enjoyed that. And I worked there for, I think it was 3 years. And I really loved it. But toward the end, I kind of started to get burnt out on the whole working in treatment, being in recovery, just recovery all the time. Yeah. And I also started getting into cameras as a hobby. And I started to realize that I started to kind of make it a side business and realize if I could put more time into it, I could make it an actual business. I was already gigging and still playing music and stuff. So yeah, I eventually made the decision, man, to quit the job and start working for myself. And that was probably about 5 years ago.
Okay.
Yep. Mike, I've been hearing about this looks maxing thing online.
Oh yeah. Everybody's optimizing their jawline now.
Right? While completely ignoring the fact that young men are one of the most at-risk groups for testicular cancer.
We're talking mainly guys between 14 and 35, your friends, brothers, sons, even fathers.
Exactly. So here's a better idea. Before you spend 3 hours researching cold plunges and eyebrow symmetry,
grab life by the balls and check your own.
Seriously, a quick self-exam could help catch something early, and early detection genuinely saves lives.
That's why we're proud to support Wayfinders Testicular Health Fund.
Wayfinders THF is a nonprofit focused on testicular cancer awareness, education, and outreach. They're getting young men more comfortable with talking about their health without all the fear, shame, or awkwardness.
Well, maybe slightly less awkwardness.
You can support the mission by donating, volunteering, or attending events like their Putts for Nuts charity mini golf tournament.
Wait, a mini golf tournament? Can we go to that?
Oh, we'll definitely be there, Mike. Putts for Nuts is happening October 17th in Ocean City, Maryland at Embers Island Mini Golf.
Wayfinders THF is here to help normalize the ball talk guys usually avoid.
Join the conversation today at wayfindersthf.org and follow Wayfinders THF on Instagram and social media.
So remember, be bold,
be brave,
and be aware with Wayfinders Testicular Health Fund. What are some of the differences in the recovery centers? What makes one place good and one place bad?
I could talk about this for hours and hours.
Well, just give me a broad strokes.
Yeah, I mean, at the end, so first of all, treatment is a great thing. It is, it's a great thing. However, it is a business.
Yeah.
And regardless of how good the intentions are of the employees that work at any treatment center, the goal of the owner is to make money.
Right.
Which, you can't blame them, right?
Yeah, it's kind of
But it's a weird thing when you're mixing those two things together.
Mm-hmm.
And what I found is the higher up the chain you get in a treatment center as an employee, the more you realize it's about money.
Okay.
And it's a frustrating thing, man. It really is, because there are.
How does that manifest though? Like,
it's difficult to explain. Like, you think about like the lower level people that work in a treatment center, most of them are gung-ho about recovery and like awesome people, and they do a really good job, and they're inspiring to the clients, and they're very invested in the client's recovery and trying to help them. And I'm not saying that the owners aren't, but the owners aren't the higher level people, which would include the owners and the people in administration. I think that they still have that idea, but they're not on the ground floor with the clients. And their day-to-day is thinking about administrative stuff. The lower level people, their day-to-day is invested in you, the client.
okay.
And it's like there's just this like inherent disconnect that happens just based on the nature of how treatment is paid for.
Oh,
It's paid for by insurance. So like you have to appease the insurance companies. You have to do things that the insurance companies require. And a lot of it is just ridiculous and unnecessary or not the right thing to do,
Okay, so like the higher ups are like putting maybe
They have to enforce that stuff.
Yeah.
And they still probably know, like, I know, but this is what we have to do, And then the lower level people are like, what the hell? Like, why are we doing this stupid thing?
So like maybe a person should be going in one direction treatment wise, but they have to go in a different direction to appease the.
Yeah. So here's an example. When I was a counselor, I had 2 clients, right? I mean, I had more than 2 clients, but for this example, I have 2 clients. One client had private insurance, like Blue Cross Blue Shield. I don't remember if that's exactly what it was, but he had private insurance. The other one had state insurance. You would think that the private insurance was way better than the state insurance. But when it comes to treatment, it's not. State insurance in Maryland they give them 30 days at a time. So like if I'm your counselor and we meet for an individual session and I write my note and then I send my recommendation to state insurance and I say, yeah, Mike he's doing well. He's making progress, but he's still struggling. He still needs treatment. State insurance will be like, okay, here's another 30 days. Blue Cross Blue Shield, depending on the millions of different plans that he could possibly have, might say, all right, well, here's 3 more days. Get back to us in 3 days. Or they might say, here's 17 days. Get back to us in 17 days. So I had this client who had private insurance and this other client who had state insurance. This client who had private insurance was doing really well, but he still needed treatment. The state insurance client was definitely still needed treatment and struggling bad. I had to meet with this client like every other day and kind of ignore this client because his insurance demanded so much updates.
Okay.
And I'm like meeting with this guy. And now my other clients are like, why are you meeting with him every other day? But my appointment with you is not for 2 weeks. I'm struggling here, man.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I know you are, dude. I know. But and you can't tell the other client like, oh, it's because his insurance is being a pain in the ass. So it's like stuff like that was really just.
So what do you tell them? Just can't tell you?
Yeah, I mean, you have to be like, I can't discuss, another client's,
but they
issues
know
with
they
you.
can, they know the,
Some of them do, some of them know, but
I mean, they know, they can, the scheduling's not a secret. They can see that you're,
they know that you're meeting with them every other day. Yeah, the scheduling's not a secret. I mean, we posted it on a board.
okay.
But, yeah, it was things like that were kind of, they just kind of wear on you after a while.
Yeah. Yeah, you know what somebody needs, but you can't get it for them.
And to be honest, Mike, like I really, I just, it wasn't just that, just like being around recovery all the time and, then going to meetings myself in the evening, like it was just like so much recovery. Like part of me just wanted to be like, all right, I kind of want to just be a little bit more normal now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not to say that I wanted to forget about recovery. It was so much recovery stuff for like 6-7 years. And I kind of wanted to back away a little bit and go in a different direction.
Are you comfortable discussing like what led you to that point in your life? Like in terms of when you started using drugs, why, what, like that kind of stuff?
Yeah. I mean, it's funny when I went to treatment, my first counselor, she was really good. She was great. Her name was Susan. And I remember her telling me like, Joe, I've got a whole bunch of other clients and like some of them have, past trauma. Some of them have, they were born addicted, or some of them, watched their parents being murdered or whatever. And like, I can understand, why they ended up like this. And she's like, I can't figure you out. Like, why are you, what I mean? How did you end up here? And I've tried to explain that before. I told you a few minutes ago, like I had a good childhood. Mm-hmm. There wasn't really any real reason, I guess. I remember like when I was in high school, before I ever, smoked any weed or cigarettes, I did start dipping. Like Skoal. And I remember like you would get that nicotine buzz. And with Skoal, you got a pretty serious nicotine buzz.
Yeah.
I worked at Prospect Bay Golf Course as a cart boy. And like we all did it. And I remember like liking that. That was my first like buzz, And then we would find beers. They would have tournaments and the guys would come in and they wouldn't have drank all their beers. So we would steal their beers. I was like 15, 16 at the time. I mean, that's kind of like when I say it, it's like normal stuff. You know what I mean? And for a while, like that's it. I was like against weed. I was totally against drugs and anything more than that. And I had some friends who started smoking weed. It was actually some of my close friends, like guys that I hung out with a lot. Mm-hmm. And I remember like I'd be hanging out with them and they'd be smoking weed. And I'm like, nope, I'm not doing that. You guys are dumb. Mm-hmm. And then, after a while, I was like, all right, let me try it.
Yeah.
And I loved it. And I went from like being against smoking weed to like a full-blown pothead within like 2 weeks, like smoking weed before school 2 weeks later.
Wow.
Yeah. And like every day, every chance I got. Mm-hmm. And I mean, it was kind of like it was a cool thing to do, then. And I don't know, man, it just kind of like, that didn't really progress. I mean, like I said, I was all about it, and then I kind of, it was like a lifestyle thing. And then I kind of identified with it a little bit. Like I had this like kind of hippie-ish phase after that. Mm-hmm. Started listening to Fish.
I was going to say, is that when you started listening to Fish?
Yeah. Right around that time. Yep. And then, somewhere in that period of time, like somebody had some Percocets, and I remember I'm like, all right, well, I mean, try that. And I loved it. And that was, I think smoking weed and realizing I loved it was a bit of a turning point, mm-hmm. but knowing like trying the Percocet and like, holy shit, this is amazing. That was a big turning point. Yeah. Luckily, that stuff was not around a lot. Like,
okay,
you know,
not easy to get.
No, not easy to get. It would come around every couple months or whatever. But you know, so then I think I just became curious about other stuff, but I still had this like fear, like I'm not doing, you know, heroin. I'm not gonna smoke crack. I'm not gonna do that stuff. But like, you know, so I tried cocaine and like acid and mushrooms, and you know, then it was cool to like sniff Ritalin, and you know, okay, yeah, sure, I'll do that. So it all kind of like progressed, and like, you know, when I was, you know, younger, you know, late teens and through my 20s, I mean, you know, I don't know if you can relate, but like, you don't think anything bad's going to happen to you. You're like, yeah, I'm good, bro. Like I got, you know, that's that person over there, not me, you know? But yeah, it did progress, and it kind of turned into more about using than it did anything else. And yeah, I mean, that's really the only way I can kind of
life became more about using.
Yeah, you know, and it was like, well, I'm painting houses and like I'm making decent money doing that. It's not bad. I can smoke weed all day. I can even get high and like use some other drugs sometimes, and it's not really a big deal.
Still paint houses.
I can get away with it, yeah, and still paint houses.
Yeah.
You know, and it seemed like a lot of the other people were doing it too, and I'm like, all right, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
But the thing that really, when the like Oxycontins were around, that was like 2008 to like 2015 or so, something like that. That was, you know, I didn't like plummet downhill, but like it was, that chunk of time for me was like, I was using that whole time. I never would like, something that interesting and kind of weird. Like you talk to a lot of like heroin or opiate addicts, they get to this point, most of them do, where it's like they call it like maintenance using, where they're not really getting high. They're just using enough to not be sick. Mm-hmm. And that happens. It's like a drinker who drinks every single day. Like if you stop drinking, you're going to be sick and get DTs. But
yeah,
I didn't get like that because I would not use opiates every day. Mm-hmm. I would use them for like a few days in a row, and then I'd stop for like a week.
Yeah.
I'd keep smoking weed and like drinking and stuff. So I kind of like, you know, it wasn't just this straight plummet down. I was able to maintain for a while. Okay. I'm really glad that I didn't use the way a lot of opiate users do. So I never got to the point of like shooting heroin.
Yeah.
Which I'm very thankful for.
And that's like because you like people, are you saying like people do that because like they can't get Oxycontin and then they,
well, most opiate users at some point realize that it's like getting the most out of your drug. You know, if you're sniffing it, yeah, you're getting high, but if you shoot it, you get way higher.
I see.
It's like the, you know, how your body absorbs it the most. Yeah, that's the word, right? Yeah. So, but yeah, actually, I was about to go to, finally, at one point my parents were like, you need to go to treatment, and you know, I fought them for a day or two, and then I'm like, all right, fine, I'll go. And then I asked the person I was getting heroin from to shoot me up.
Wait, you were getting heroin, but you weren't shooting it? How do you?
I was sniffing it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and I knew I was going to treatment the next day, and I was like, oh, whatever. I don't know how to shoot myself up. I don't have any needles. I knew that person did, and I asked them to do it, and they said no.
Really?
They're like, no, I'm not doing that. They knew I was going to treatment, and they were like, you're not going to go. If I do that, you won't go to treatment. And I'm like, all right. You know, I kind of took that as like a sign.
Yeah, if your heroin dealer's telling you no.
Yeah, right. I was like, well, okay. all right.
So you went to treatment then?
I went to treatment. Yep, I did go, and I did well.
How old were you?
I was like 31.
Okay. Is that before I knew you, or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Joey, my son, was like 2.
Okay.
And
I think I knew you when Joey was a baby. I think I started playing bass and heavy.
Oh, so yeah, it was after. Yeah, you knew me then.
But it was before before the time that I initiated, or.
Yeah, it was after you guys gave me the intervention.
Okay.
It was a while. It was like a year later.
It was after that. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I see.
Year and a half. It was about a year later.
Okay.
So I went and did really well, had this, 180 degree turn and, came out of it, all about recovery, did what they told me to do. I fought it at first for like the first couple weeks while I was in treatment.
Mm-hmm.
But after a while of being clean and clear minded, I was just like, what the fuck am I doing? You know what I mean? This is just do this, dude. You know what I mean? Do what they're telling you to do. So I did, and came out, did really well, and went to a bunch of meetings and got a new job with DirecTV. It was great. Like, I was a technician installing satellite dishes. It was a great job. But one thing about it was I had a lot of freedom and driving around by myself all over the place, going from this house to that house. And I think it was about 90 days into it. I hadn't been to a meeting in like a week or two.
Mm-hmm.
And I just had the thought pop into my head, man. I was actually right here on Kent Island. And I was like, yeah, I wonder if they probably got something right now. And I hit them up. It was like in the middle of the day. And like, it just happened so quick. Like, I had that thought. I texted them or called them or whatever. And they were like, yeah, I'm actually right here next to where you are. And it was like, bam, okay, there. And then I had sniffed some more heroin. And I was like, what the fuck? And then I was like, all right, well, I guess I'll get some weed and smoke some weed. And then that went for like a month. And then I went back to treatment. The second time I just felt so bad. I was like, what am I doing?
Yeah.
And I called the treatment center and set it all up myself the second time. Went back again, same thing, did really well, came out all about recovery and everything. That's when I started working in treatment. And really liked that job. The people were great. That's where I met George. It was a really great time of my life. I wasn't making a whole lot of money, but like, I felt good about what I was doing,
Mm-hmm.
And then I think it was another 90 days. I was doing a job with a friend of mine, and we were going to paint a house. It was a side job, and it was an older guy that had passed away. And before we could paint the house, part of our job was to clear the house out, like take stuff to the dump and everything. And he had these bags of prescription bottles. And of course, I found some like codeine, like Tylenol with codeine. And I put it in my pocket and took some that night, and like immediately was like, what the fuck are you doing? And I didn't tell anybody. So I just kind of like pretended like that didn't happen.
Mm-hmm.
Went back to work, pretended like it didn't happen. And then I didn't tell anybody for like 2 years. And I was doing step work with George, and there's a particular question in the step work where it's like, you tell your sponsor like all the bad shit you've done, and then there's like one more question at the end. It's like, is there anything else that you're forgetting about? And I remember I was sitting there with George, and I'm like, no, that's it. I really couldn't think of anything else. And I was driving home from George's house, and that popped into my mind. So I called him, and I was like, yeah, actually there is something else. I took this Tylenol with codeine. It had been like 2 years prior. And he was like, all right, well, you got to change your clean date and tell your home group. And I was like, oh, okay. Is that it? He's like, yeah, man, it was 2 years ago. What are you going to do?
Yeah.
He's like, just don't do it again. I'm like, all right. So I went and told my home group and changed my clean date. And, just kept moving on.
Cool.
Yep.
And it's been all uphill since then.
Yeah, mostly. I will admit, since we're talking about all this stuff, and most people know anyway, I did have a couple drinks over the past, 6 months or so. I think it was 2 different times. But other than that, everything's been fine.
Didn't put you on a downhill.
Didn't put me on a downhill. My fiance Jen did not approve of it, which I understand.
Yeah.
But it was something that happened, and you know what I mean. Just keep moving forward.
Yeah.
Yep.
Wow. It's crazy.
Yeah, it is crazy, but I wish that I had experienced or I wish I had like dove into recovery, earlier in my life, but I'm glad it happened when it did.
Yeah. So one of the questions I think you probably answered this, but one of the questions I was going to ask you is, what's the hardest decision you've ever had to make? Would that be in the vicinity of what you just described, or is there another hardest decision you've ever had to make?
No, I think that's probably it, man. Like
deciding to get clean, or
I don't think it was like decide. Yeah, I mean, it definitely. But if I really had to like narrow it down, it was like making the decision to go all in with a 12-step program, which was NA for me. I remember like being in treatment that first time, because when I went into treatment the first time, I had made up my mind like, yeah, opiates, heroin, that needs to go. But I'm not going to stop smoking weed or drinking beer. I'm going to do those 2 things, That was my mindset going in. And of course, I quickly learned that like, no, bro, that's not what we're recommending. We're recommending you don't do anything. No. And like, not even do you not do anything. They preach like one day at a time, it's not for the rest of your life. It's just for the rest of today. But they mean ever. Like, that's what they mean. Like, you need to stop using altogether.
Right.
And there is no amount of time when you can start drinking again, Right. We recommend that you don't do it. And that scared the shit out of me, like not being able to.
Yeah.
And I knew that if I went all in, that I had to accept that. And like, that's going to be the way it is. So yeah, I think that was like the biggest decision. I was in treatment, and we had groups throughout the day, you go to these different groups. It's like class, they just call them groups. And they have all this recovery material like laying out everywhere, books and pamphlets and stuff. And there was an NA pamphlet that was laying out in the, common area. And it was like in between groups one day. And I was just like, killing time. And I'm reading this NA pamphlet. And I think it was called Who is an Addict? There's 2 different ones. One's Who is an Addict, and one is called Are You an Addict? I don't remember which one it was, but it's just this short pamphlet, and it asks you these different questions like, have you ever done this? Has this ever happened to you? Have you ever done this? And, I read through it, and I was like, man, I can't say no to like any of these questions. And it was just like in that moment, I was like, man, I can't deny this. Like, I had this denial going on, and like, now I'm clear-minded enough to not be able to hold on to that denial anymore. And that was like, all right, in those groups and in meetings and stuff, everybody says like, hi, I'm Joe, I'm an addict. I'm Mike, I'm an addict. And for the first 2 weeks, I was just like, hi, I'm Joe. And I would not say I'm an addict, because I knew that meant like, you're admitting it, you're accepting it. But after I read that pamphlet at that particular time, I was like, I have to do it. So that was a big, huge decision.
Yeah. All right. So switching gears a little bit,
all right.
You're a professional musician and videographer. What is it about videography that draws you to videography? Why do you think you're passionate about that?
Well, I definitely think that cameras and lenses and gear and stuff is cool. I mean, there's definitely a huge part of me that's drawn to like gear and like tools that do things, you know? So I think that was one of the things that initially drew me to it. Initially I wanted to make better videos for the band and like music related videos to put on social media and to try to get gigs and stuff.
Yeah.
And you know, some of the cell phones, like they weren't bad, you know, but I saw stuff on YouTube and I'm like, oh man, I can get a real camera.
Yeah.
So that's what initially drew me to it. And then like, I mean, I definitely have an artsy, you know, element to me. I have a desire to, you know, the aesthetics of things is attractive to me. You know?
Yeah, you have a very particular vision of.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I would put it that way. I don't know. I see things like, just like I was saying, I really enjoy watching a great guitar player. Even if I see a room, like I know this sounds kind of weird, but like a room where I like the aesthetics of it, like how it's like decorated and put together. I enjoy that. And I'm like, man, that's awesome. I wish I could, like, how do you do that? How do you know, to put that bowl right there and like turn the call, like, I mean, it's not just, it's only if I really like the way it looks.
Right.
Then I'm like drawn to it. And after I started messing around with the camera and realizing how some of those looks were achieved, like, oh, you need a lens with a wide open aperture to make the background blurry. Okay, that's how that works. Then I realized, then when I'm like, I can create an image that looks like that. That was just cool to me, Yeah. It's like I really, it was a whole new interesting hobby that was not only functional, but I was like, I could learn how to do it, I mean, YouTube is an incredible resource for that. So yeah, I mean, just the fact that I could learn while I'm like chilling, laying down, watching TV, which is just YouTube for me, mainly, and then I could apply that stuff when I was, not laying down, chilling. Like that was really cool too. I didn't have to go sit in a class. Like,
yeah,
you just peruse YouTube and learn all these different things about cameras and lenses. And that was really cool. And I applied it to making videos for music myself or the band. I already had I had learned a lot about like home recording and microphones and stuff and mixing years before through YouTube. Excuse me. So I could apply those two things together. And I mean, I think I've always appreciated really good photography. I guess I just never kind of like, I don't know, like consciously was aware that I did. Okay. I don't know if that makes sense, but
I think so. So do you think part of it is like that you like to have control over?
Is that where you're trying to lead me here? Yeah, I mean, for sure, man.
Because you get to control the environment.
Yeah. I mean, I think, yeah, you could say that.
Okay, moving on. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I mean, there's something that makes you feel good when you orchestrate something entirely yourself, and then the end result is like what you're trying to get. Like that is that makes you feel good.
Yeah,
makes me feel good anyway.
Yeah, it's kind of like building something.
Yeah, right. It's similar to that, right?
Yeah, you get a product at the end.
Yep.
Yeah. So, what are your priorities in life?
What are my priorities in life? Well, we have a baby coming in the beginning of October 2nd. So right now, my priorities are making sure that like I am financially ready for that, and that, we have everything we need, and just like life in general is as stable as possible. Because a baby is a huge deal. And the last time I had a baby was 12 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So it's quite a big gap there. Yeah, man. And I mean, along those same lines, like trying to focus on. So lately I'm trying to like keep motivation to continue to develop my business and my craft, and, not get lazy with it. And also for the past year, I've been intending on trying to develop like a new source of income, even if it's not very big, just like some kind of side thing. Because that's one of the coolest things about working for yourself is like, you can do that. I mean, you can do that if you don't work for yourself, but if you work for yourself, you can schedule your own time to fit it in wherever you want, or wherever it fits in. You don't have like an 8-hour chunk of your day where you're like, no, I can't do anything during that period of time every single weekday.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've really been putting more thought. Haven't like started any new project, but I've been doing some research and like spinning the wheels in my mind, trying to decide like what is the best, route to go down for like another side revenue.
You want to share any of your ideas with us, or do you not?
Yeah, I mean, I think I've mentioned it on here. Like the biggest one is print on demand t-shirts, which is something that I think I could probably do. I just need to get started. I just need to pick a time and just start, because I know that once I start, then I'll start to get that ball rolling.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
you're gonna make like any particular type of t-shirt, or?
I told you about this the other day. I really don't. I eventually would love to make like t-shirts that I would wear for myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I might find that, because there's different thoughts, but like some sources say pick an extremely small niche, which is something that I tend to be drawn towards extremely small niches, and focus on that. But I've also just seen like so many of these just dumb t-shirts, Labradoodle mom, or, some kind of ridiculous Trump t-shirt, or I told you yesterday I saw one that looked like the Dunkin' Donuts wording, but it said drunken grown-ups.
Yeah.
And I thought to myself, like, that is the stupidest shirt I've ever seen.
Someone paid for it.
I saw one of those dumb shirts in Rehoboth the other day. It said PETA, people eating tasty animals.
Mm-hmm.
And you think about all this dumb shirts in Ocean City on the board. People buy that stuff. And it's like, I want to capitalize on that.
Yeah. Okay.
So I think when I do start, I'm probably going to make something really dumb that I would never wear, like a Paul that says, Yorkie mom or something.
Mm-hmm.
Something like that.
Okay, cool. So if your priorities are your baby right now.
Yeah, and my son too. I mean, my son is 12. He's got a million things going on. So just trying to stay on top of all that stuff. School's coming up. He's got opportunities to play on 2 different travel teams, a new club baseball team and club soccer for the fall. And we need to make decisions on that very soon. So yeah, that's something else that's kind of like going on at the moment.
Okay. So family would be like a top priority for you.
Yeah.
Okay. If money weren't an issue, how would you spend your days? If
money wasn't an issue?
Yeah.
Phew, man. I love to think about that, but I also hate it.
I guess maybe a better question would be like, are there any other passions you have that you...
If money wasn't an issue, I would probably... I'd buy a amazing house. Okay. I'd probably buy at least a couple cars because I love driving in a nice vehicle.
Okay.
And then I'd probably do some awesome traveling.
Okay, yeah, you kind of answered that already.
Yeah, I'd probably go to like a Bermuda type place first and just chill on the beach for a couple weeks.
Okay. Do you think you get bored of that eventually?
Oh yeah, I get bored of things. So I'd probably spend my time chilling on the beach, like dreaming up all kinds of other crazy stuff I could do, you know.
Yeah.
Whether it's I probably would do some kind of business, you know.
Yeah.
Something that maybe requires some kind of capital, you know.
Buy low, sell high kind of thing.
Well, I just mean like I'd love to have a photography video. I'd love to have a studio of some kind.
Yeah.
You know, somewhere where I can like leave stuff set up and, you know, do all kinds of different types of portraits and mess with lighting and shoot this show and leave it set up and, you know, all that, like make the shift set, you know, have all matching cameras and, you know, just make it like as awesome as it possibly can be.
So you wouldn't go off into another realm. You feel like you're kind of doing what you.
Oh yeah, I would
passionate
continue with videography and photography for sure.
Okay. You think you'd still play music?
I probably would, but probably not as much. I'd probably like right now in this. I mean, it's summertime, so I'm playing more, but I'd probably do like one gig every 2 weeks.
Okay.
Maybe every 2 weeks, like 2 gigs in a weekend, like something like that. You know. But yeah, man, I would like, you know, I'd probably dive into the videography. I'd probably try to make a movie or something. And
that'd be cool.
Get like an awesome camera and, you know, all the lighting and shit that I need. And
yeah,
my brain would be like 100 miles an hour if money wasn't an issue. I'd be dreaming up all kinds of shit I could do.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
So wait, are you going to give me a lot of money? Is that where you're going with this?
Yeah.
You gonna give me all the money I need?
Yeah.
Do whatever I want?
You can have all my money. You still wouldn't be able to do much though. But so when you got into music as a wee laddie, did you start a band? Did you do a solo? When did you figure out you could sing, all that kind of stuff?
This is kind of funny. When I was in probably middle school, back when we only had landlines and there were no cell phones, and we had like an answering machine at the house, I would call. I thought I could sing. I felt like I was like, I think I can sing. I think I have a pretty decent voice, you know, singing to myself and stuff. But I was still very scared to like sing in front of anyone else or like let them hear it. So I would call. I'd pick up the landline at the house. I'd call the house number to get the voicemail. Okay. And then sing into the voicemail. And then listen back to it. Yeah.
Okay.
Like, all right, that's pretty good. And then I remember I had like one of my first girlfriends. I was very nervous, but I sang to her over the phone.
Just straight singing?
Yeah. No, I like made something up.
Okay.
It wasn't a song. I just like made something up. Okay. Sang it. And I remember her being like, wow, that was really good. And I think she was being honest. And I'm like, all right, cool. You know? I kind of, and then when I got a guitar in my senior year, I did start singing, you know, while playing the guitar and like around my parents and stuff. And so when I was younger, my mom would sing, and my mom can sing pretty decent. She's got a pretty decent voice. You know, better with some things, and she's never sang in front of a whole bunch of people, but like she'd sing around the house and stuff. Yeah. And I could tell like that's pretty close to what we're listening to. You know what I mean? She doesn't sound bad. So, you know, I heard that and I knew she could sing pretty decent. But it's still, man, you know, just like anything, it took me a long time to like, I remember when I first started playing like gigs and stuff and my mom would come, she would be like, sing, like, don't hold back. Like, cause I'd be kind of holding back a little bit. Yeah. But it takes you a while to like find that voice, you know what I mean? And like, cause you're kind of scared to really belt it out.
Yeah. Which is like, until you do, you never really are you're always going to be a bad singer till you just go for it.
Yeah.
Or not a bad singer, but like,
yeah.
you're not gonna be a good singer.
I mean, I'm sure you know what I'm talking about, but like once you decide like, okay, what cover songs am I going to play? And then you're like, all right, well, when this line comes, like, do I sound better when I sing it like this or like this, or where does my voice hit it right?
Yeah.
So then like, you know, for several gigs, you're like trying different things. And then you're like, okay, all right, right there. That's where I need to hit that word each time, you know, but then after a while you kind of get bored with like singing it the exact same way. So you like try different things, and then you kind of realize like, what you can do and what you can't do, you know?
Yeah. There's like parts that you don't ever really know until you're like in front of an audience, and you kind of like let go and find.
Yeah. And you know, and on certain days you can do it and other days you can't, you know. You know, you probably realize it too. Like a lot of times, like when you're playing a gig, like the first song or two, even like the first 10 seconds of the first song, you're like, all right, I'm feeling pretty good today. My voice, my voice sounds good right off the bat.
Yeah.
And then you kind of start, you know, going for it.
Yeah. Okay. So if you could have coffee with anyone in the world, this is a ChatGPT question.
Okay.
And I don't know if I'm saying it exactly. Hold on. If you could, hold on. This is a different question. I kind of made up my own question that I thought was a ChatGPT question. So I'll ask you both.
All right.
If you could have coffee with anyone in the world and ask them 2 questions, who would it be and what would you ask them?
Man, that's an interesting question.
Up to 2 questions. You could just ask them one.
Anyone in the world.
Yeah. Alive.
Right
now.
And ask them 1 or 2 questions.
Yeah.
Man, I don't know.
Kind of a crazy question.
Yeah.
What's your gut telling you?
Nothing at all.
Really?
Like I have nothing coming
like
to mind.
Some YouTuber or something you'd want to down with? It doesn't have to be a profound answer.
Yeah, I know, but dude, I really can't. Like, I mean, sure, there's a bunch of YouTubers, I guess, that I'd love to like chat with, but I'm like, what would I ask them that they don't already tell me on YouTube?
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I don't know, dude. I maybe ask me another question. Maybe I'll come back to that.
Well, the other one's very similar.
Okay.
This is the ChatGPT question. If you could have dinner with anyone in history, who would you invite? And what's the first question you'd ask them?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. What else did ChatGPT ask you? Those are weird. I can't think of anybody.
That's really the only ones that it did give me some rapid fire questions, but I don't know. Let's see. We'll see how these are. Hold on. Rapid fire. A book that changed your life.
I don't know about changing my life, but I've only really read one book, so this is an easy answer. Chesapeake by James Michener.
Okay.
I actually read. This is ridiculous. That book's like 1,000 pages.
Yeah.
And it's like literally the only book that I've read. I stopped. I didn't read the last 10 pages of that book.
Really?
Which is ridiculous.
You're like, all right, I get it.
Yeah, I got that enough. No,
There's some
but
twist at the end.
I really enjoyed that book, man. Even though it's a pretty controversial book because it's like historical, but it's fiction. Mm-hmm. Like the characters and the places are all kind of based on real events and places, but the names and the towns and stuff are not real.
Okay.
But it was there's a lot of true facts about, how the waterman industry developed over hundreds of years in this area, even though the actual people are not real, Yeah. But yeah, I really got into that book. I mean, I've grown up on the Eastern Shore, except for the 4 years we were across the bridge, but like my entire family are Eastern Shore native people. So that's always been something I identified with,
Yeah.
So it was very interesting to me to like read about, how the Chesapeake Bay area, developed over hundreds of years.
Yeah. Yeah, it is really interesting.
Yeah, it was cool.
This is not on the list, but I do want to ask this question. Are you a dog or a cat guy?
Oh, dog all the way. I hate cats.
Why don't you own a dog, Joe?
Why don't I own one right now?
Yeah.
Well, for one, because the place we're living, it's like a $300 deposit for a dog, and then it's like another $60 a month.
So it's just that you would.
Yeah, and it's we live in like a duplex. I mean, we could have a small dog, but I have always been partial to labs. We've always had labs, and you got to have labs. Got to have a place to run around, a big yard. It's a lot.
Torture a lab.
But yeah, no cats. I don't like cats at all.
There was one other good question on here that I didn't write down. Oh yeah. Actually, hold on. Before I ask you those, I have a couple other ones.
Okay.
What does success mean to you, and what does it look like?
I mean, fairly cliche answer, I guess, but like being happy with yourself, being content with your life, and the kind of person that you are, and feeling good about yourself,
Okay.
That definitely does include money, for me anyway. I would love, so like, you know me pretty well. I've gotten much better with like irrational spending or impulsive spending, but I still like to do it. Not necessarily impulsive these days, but I still like to buy things. I just plan them out a lot more than I used to. But so like financially, I'm pretty good at the moment, but like I would like to be able to impulsively buy things and not worry about it.
Okay.
Like I'd like to be able to spend $5,000 and like, okay, no worries. I'm good. I can't do that next week, but like, I'm all right. I still pay all my bills, and not have to worry about it. I'd like to be able to, even not necessarily just that, but like, I'd like to buy a new camera if I need it and want it, and like just go buy it, and it's okay.
But if you had that kind of money, I guess what my first question is, would you? Because you could have that kind of money if you lowered your standard of living to a certain point, right? So like right now you live in a duplex. Would you be happy living in a duplex and have that kind of money extra that you could do that with? Or if you had this extra money, do you think you'd then want to move into a mansion?
Well, that's very true.
You know what I mean?
That is a true thing, right? That like if we have more income, it doesn't necessarily, like a lot of times we just increase our spending.
Right.
Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, that was kind of a general response, I guess. Like, I realized that probably would happen to me if I had more income. I'd probably end up just spending more money.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'd have to, I don't think I would, like, if money was not an issue, I don't think I'd live in a 20,000 square foot house.
What's an ideal, it's enough, like
I don't know, Mike. I'm
like
not sure.
An ideal living situation. You know what I mean? Like,
I mean, where we live right now is enough. It's a nice spot. I like it just fine. Sure, there are certain things that it doesn't have that I would like to have.
What's your dream house?
I don't know. I really don't.
Really?
It's hard to say. I want, like, that studio that I mentioned I would like to have. I would ideally like that to be on my property.
Okay.
I don't want to have to drive to it. I want to be able to walk or drive a golf cart. I want to drive a golf cart to it. That would be sweet.
That would be pretty cool.
I would like to have like a big, finished like barn type studio, or just a big ass barn that's finished that I could use for whatever I want, like partly a garage and use it as a garage. And then I saw one recently. I played a party on 4th of July down out in Mardella Springs by Salisbury. And this dude had like the perfect barn. It wasn't super extravagant. I mean, it obviously cost a lot of money, but he had one section of it where it was like, farm equipment and lawnmowers, and he had a boat in there, and you know what I mean? It was still fairly clean, but it was like, that was the garage section. And then this other section, but it was open. And then the other section was just like a big wide open section. And he had, he had some shelving and stuff. It was a little more organized, but like, it was just a big wide open area that you could use whatever you want for whatever you want.
Okay.
I would love to have something like that.
Okay. And as far as the house goes, you'd want like everyone has their own bedroom, couple bathrooms.
Yeah. I mean,
nothing out crazy.
It's hard to say, Mike. If money wasn't an issue, I probably would go overboard.
This is not if money wasn't an issue.
Well, that's why it's hard to say what's ideal, because like, how much money do I have in this ideal situation?
Well, that's okay. I'm trying to figure out like what point you'd need to be at living wise to where then you'd be like, okay, this is good enough. Now anything extra is extra, and I can do things like buy a $5,000 camera.
I mean, I would consider where I'm at right now to be what you're describing. You know what I mean? It's just fine. I like it. It's better than just fine where we're at right now.
Okay.
But I mean, more is more. So
more is more.
That's
That's
the way I look at it.
What do you hope your grandkids say about you when you're dead?
Oh man. I hope that they say that, I was a responsible, good person and someone that they admired and looked up to, and, had, my grandparents always used to say, use your best judgment. That was something they would tell me all the time. So I would hope that they would say like, I have good judgment and, a good character and that kind of thing.
And you hope they would say, my grandpa used to always say, such and such.
I don't know. I would also hope that they think I'm funny.
Okay. Yeah. That's fair. All right. Let me go back to these ChatGPT questions real quick and see, there might not even be anything, worthwhile here, but this is okay. This made me think of another question. So this question is, when do you feel most like yourself? Which made me think, what makes you feel alive?
What makes me feel
most alive? When do you feel most alive?
That's an interesting question. Probably like, like when you feel like you like connect with like a loved one, when you're like, you're feeling like that feeling of love with your partner or with your kids.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think so. That's probably like a really heightened awareness, you're really in the present moment.
Okay.
Yeah, I think so. That's when I feel the most alive.
Okay.
Yeah.
Not when you're spending money.
No.
Oh,
man, it's just a rush of dopamine.
Yeah.
But I mean, yeah.
All right. If someone you knew when you were 18 met you today, what would surprise them the most?
What would surprise it when I was 18?
I think we covered this kind of.
Yeah. I wasn't like in active addiction at 18.
Oh, okay.
So, what would surprise them the most? I think that they would be surprised that I'm like, that I have videography and photography business. And like, that's one of my main things, and a musician. I had just started like strumming guitar back then. So like people didn't, recognize me as a musician or someone who sings, you know what I mean? I didn't do either one of those things. And, if I sat down and talked with them, they'd probably also be surprised that I was a substance abuse counselor for a while. Yeah, just like probably just the general direction that
So everything, really.
that my life went in, pretty much,
Yeah.
They would also probably be surprised that I spent years in active addiction. Because I don't think anybody saw that coming.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
Yep.
Is there anything else about you that the viewers might find interesting that we haven't touched on?
Yeah, I'm actually 78 years old.
Wow.
Yeah. I've been taking this youth serum for quite a while now.
Okay.
Yeah, no, that's not true. Yeah, I don't know, Mike. Anything else viewers might find interesting? I can't think of anything.
Okay.
At the moment.
All right, Joe. Well, I think that's all I've got for you.
All right. Well, those are fairly easy questions for the most part.
Yeah.
I was a little worried you might get too far into the weeds, but
I tried to keep it light.
yeah, you did a good job.
Thanks.
All right, man. Well, we'll see you guys next time. Once again, we'd like to thank today's sponsor, Wayfinders Testicular Health Fund, for sponsoring today's episode.
Join the conversation at wayfindersthf.org and follow at wayfindersthf on Instagram and social media.